Guys, before we hop into today's episode of the podcast, I want to tell you about a company I'm partnering with called David Protein. If you're a runner or someone who just wants to stay active, obviously the training you do matters, but to maximize that training, you have to maximize your recovery. And studies show that 30 to 50% of people don't get enough adequate protein in their daily lives. With David Protein bars, you get 28 grams of protein per bar with the added benefit of 0 grams of sugar, 0 gluten, and only 150 calories per bar. David Protein is my go-to because it tastes like dessert, but I'm also getting closer to my protein goal for the day. For me, I've been lifting a lot more recently, so protein is massively important, and David Protein has been my go-to. Give it a try. If you're not fully satisfied with it, shoot me a DM. I will fully refund your order. I've left a link in the show notes. Up your protein, up your recovery, and watch your running flourish as a result. Let's get into today's episode.
Like, truthfully, I've never seen him that devastated. Parker, too. And I said to those guys, guys, if you're going to love the highs, like, you have to actually love this part, too. You can't have one without the other. You got to love this part. You got to remember, like, how privileged of a life we are living that we get to care about something this much. We have this much emotion right now, and, like, okay, let's use it. Let's turn it around the next day.
That was Coach Milt today, back on the Running Effect podcast. Coach Chris Miltenberg, anytime he blesses this show with his presence, blesses us with innumerable wisdom and insights, and I get him at a particularly interesting time where this past weekend was the 2025 NCAA Indoor Track and Field Championships, and he had Ethan Strand win the 3K on the men's side, and then Makayla Paige win the 800 meter on the women's side. We break down these races, we break down these athletes, we break down the University of North Carolina as a whole, as a program, his insights, his wisdom on all sorts of things from the build-up leading into this championships, how he views the indoor season, his thoughts going into the outdoor season, if he'll ever coach professional runners, how he balances wins with also not getting complacent, and so many other subjects. I'm confident you guys are going to love this one. And because of that, share it with a friend. That is the easiest way in which this podcast can grow. It's free for you to do, to share the episode with a friend, a family member, a teammate. Share it with 20 people, 30 people, really help me out. I would greatly appreciate it. It means the world anytime I hear one of you do that. Also, hit the follow button and subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And then the cherry on top, give us a 5-star review. Would greatly appreciate it. And without further ado, I hope you all enjoy this conversation. I hope it blesses you, and I'm excited for you to learn from the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Coach Chris Miltenberg. Coach Milt, back again. I think you're on time like 4 or 5. You're slowly becoming a veteran. You're slowly creeping into Alex Osberg territory. I'm not sure how he feels about that. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I think Alex has probably been on way more times than me, but
we were just talking about this with championship season and also with just a season progressing and bigger meets and stress. And I'm sure some athletes have setbacks, like the whole 9 yards. How are you feeling right now? Can you take a sigh of relief? Can you take a breather? And this week, do you get to catch up on sleep?
Yeah, no, I feel great right now, man. It was a great season. And you know, I think to your point about it being stressful late in the season or feeling like you leave and you got to release. And yeah, I love that part. You know, I think that's the part you live for, right? So, I mean, it's like, it's the most exciting. If stress is even the word, and I don't even know if that's the word I would use, it's the part that we live for, right? So you get to that period last week or the last 3 or 4 weeks is the championship portion of the indoor season. And yeah, I mean, it's like, it's the most fun part, you know? And so, yes, like, am I not sleeping much the night before? And am I a little bit anxious? A little bit of that, but like, I love that part. You know? So as long as you keep it in that positive framework, then I don't think you can get tired. You can energize and ready to keep going. So yeah, it's certainly been a busy last couple of weeks between, you know, just purely how the calendar worked out, that our conference championships, the ACCs, ran through a Monday afternoon, and then turned it the very next week back in by Wednesday afternoon to race on Friday. And so that was a very unique to this year's situation. So yeah, it's been a busy last couple of weeks, but all great.
I remember in our first conversation when I was asking you about winning your first NCAA championships at Georgetown, and you can fill out the story as much as you want to. We discussed you celebrating that win and really lack thereof and how you were just on to the next thing. This past weekend, you had 2 individual athletes bring home titles, which were really exciting, and I'm sure we'll get into in this conversation. How have you grown throughout the years in terms of celebrating your own successes, and what does that process look like where you take a moment to appreciate and be grateful for them, while also you got an outdoor season ahead. I'm sure you want to win titles. Like, if you just stayed at that stagnant mindset, you'd never win anything again. So what's the balance like, and how have you grown throughout the years from that probably 2011-ish win at Georgetown?
Yeah, and I think step one is, as I try to frame it, is not my success, but our success, and really the athlete's success. And but to that story you reference, when we won in 2011, and I was 30 years old at the time, or 31, and I remember thinking, like, pretty quickly thereafter, okay, man, I'm glad we got that over with, because you could spend your whole career chasing one of those, or an athlete chasing making an Olympic team, whatever it may be. And you realize the next day, like, you love the pursuit of it. Like, it didn't change anything. You love the pursuit. So ever since then, I've always been, we certainly had our share of wins. We've also had our share of near losses or big losses, and try to stay steady on it, and just enjoy, like, the pursuit of it, and watching people grow through that pursuit of it and that chase of it. And so, yeah, I mean, this weekend, this weekend was definitely a series of ups and downs too. And as I said earlier, like, you have to love that part of it. Like, you can't, like, I give you an example. It's like Friday night on that men's distance. I mean, no doubt about it. Our guys wanted to, like, they wanted to win as much as they ran fantastic. I thought they put in an incredible effort. I've never seen Ethan Strand that devastated either. Like, truthfully, I've never seen him that devastated. Parker too. And I said to those guys, I said, guys, if you're gonna love the highs, like, you have to actually love this part too. You can't have one without the other. You got to love this part. You got to remember, like, how privileged of a life we are living, that we get to care about something this much. We have this much emotion right now, and, like, okay, let's use it. Let's turn it around the next day. And so yeah, getting off your question, yeah, it's this weekend was awesome. It is awesome just watching Ethan bounce back in 22 hours like that. Watching Makayla just, man, take charge of her situation, where she was nearly hit the ground 200 meters in and just kept her cool. Parker, man, there's not an athlete in America, and I say this bar none, who could do what he just did off of how little training he has actually done. And the coolest thing I've ever seen, and Ethan and Parker and I talked about this a lot on Monday, I'm me another guy that would have trained as little as Parker has trained. And not only did he run well, he went for the win. He tried to win. Like, he didn't have six, but he wasn't just hanging around hoping to maybe score. He was like, that's so. Yeah, this weekend was, definitely an encapsulation of, like, how it all goes up and down in the period of 24 hours. And you got to love all that part of it too. And yeah, to your point, outdoor season, man, the Olympics are run on an outdoor track. Outdoor track is the sport, right? Like, indoors is fun when you're in it. Like, I've had many, not as many, but quite a few NCAA outdoor champions now. In 2012, Emily Infeld won the 3,000. From then till now, I have never had an NCAA indoor champion, and we've had a lot of outdoors. No, that's true. We won a men's distance medley in 2014 too. But the point is, outdoors is when we build up and get way better still too.
To that original point and the original question, I think through the over 500 episodes I've done, and also listening to other podcasts and studying successful individuals, that the number one struggle, I think, for high performing individuals is appreciating the wins, but not getting too complacent through celebrating those wins. And I think you find it across the spectrum, right? There are some people who don't celebrate their wins at all, and they're probably a little too greedy, a little too hungry. And there are other people who maybe celebrate making the Olympics a little too much, party a little too much on the off season, and then the next season's horrendous because it's just so much of a shift to get back into it. What advice would you have for an athlete out there? And they could be any level, because everyone has goals and dreams and whatnot. What advice would you have for an individual to appreciate their wins, but not get complacent through appreciating their wins? Because I think it's important to appreciate those wins. Otherwise, you're always going to be you're going to get to 80 years old and have done some pretty cool things, but never have actually enjoyed the journey. And that's a pretty sad reality to be a part of. But on the other end, if you had that mindset 24/7 of, like, appreciating the wins, you would have been so thrilled you were just a coach in the NCAA. You probably would have never done anything. You probably would have fizzled out after a year or two. So I think the balance is crucial. And that's why I think it's so hard. It's such a fine line. And I think that's why the best of the best struggle with it so much.
Yeah, and I think that's a tough one, man. I think that really is a tough one, and one that I have not maybe gotten right myself personally, and probably give better advice than I to other people on how to do it than I do it myself. And but it is something I think about the idea of complacency and really I think about just for example the guys we have that our team right now. Complacency is one thing I do not worry about at all. Honestly, like with the elites, like complacency is one thing I never worry about at all. And I do think it's really, really important that you take a moment and you do pause and recognize success along the way because I don't want to say you never know when it's going to happen again, but just like these moments are meaningful. Progress is meaningful. I think that's how you build momentum. It's something I see a lot with like an athlete on the comeback, right? When they're coming back, maybe being hurt or missing some time, and it's like, man, you got to celebrate the steps. You got to celebrate the exam. So for guys like Parker or Ethan or Makayla, like, man, they want to be world class. Like they literally want to be world class. They want to be Olympic finalists. They want to be medalists, right? And so in some way, you're like, okay, well, this is just a step toward the NCAA is a step toward doing that. But man, you have to pause and appreciate these things along the way. Like you have to, and that's what I said to all of them. You said that to Makayla, and even on Saturday night. And more things like, man, enjoy this. Like enjoy this. Like we will deal with tomorrow when we get there. Enjoy this now, because I do think high performers, we're wired to just, hey, what's next? What's next? And you need some of that, but like you can balance that with a pause and enjoy the moments too.
For you personally, I think I asked Ethan and Parker this question when I had them on. Now I'm like kind of forgetting the framework of the question, but I think the question is something because I heard it a few months ago and I love it. Do you love to win more than you hate to lose, or do you hate to lose more than you love to win?
Yeah, I remember listening to that when you asked them that, and I remember thinking like, what would I say? And I don't even know if I could really answer that clearly. Honestly, it's of course we all love to win in the moment. It's fun in the moment, but if you are operating from a place of hating to lose and you're afraid to lose, and certainly a younger me probably had more of that than now. Like you got to be willing to go for it. Like you got to be willing to take those chances and be okay. I think Parker and Ethan, many people have asked me, particularly guys in our team, have asked me like, what is it about them? And it's one of their most important defining characteristics. I would say is like they're not afraid to lose. Like they're not afraid. Don't get me wrong. They're upset. Because they're competitive, but they're not afraid to go for it and take swings. Right? Like they've certainly had their share of disappointments and have this incredible ability to zoom out and say, okay, that sucked. I don't suck. That sucked. Let's do it tomorrow again. And like, man, that is a big differentiator. So yeah, I don't think you can be afraid to lose. You can hate to lose, but you can't be afraid to lose. And so I don't know if I can really answer the question. I think
Sure.
I love the journey of all of it.
I think interesting point of view this indoor season was your guys attacked it maybe a little harder than they have in the past. You guys went to BU. I know that wasn't the case in the past. And I think I saw some interview or you saying something about just like, yeah, you switched your perspective on BU this year. And we talked about the distinction between indoor, outdoor, how the, outdoor track is like, it's the thing, it's the sport. For you, does this worry you? You're not a guy who gets worried, but what's your general perspective on like, because your guys ran so well indoors and Ethan ran so well, is there now like how do we pace him? What's your general perspective on this year compared to other years? Because you have a guy who ran 3:48 so early on in the season and really has been running lights out.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I worry about a lot of things, but that is one I'm not worried about because even the whole idea of changing our perspective on going to BU. When we first got to North Carolina, that was really like an essential part of our fabric was the idea that we were going to build a team that loved to compete in an era where everybody else just wanted to chase times. And so in wanting to chase times, you chase perfect situations, right? And so you chase quote unquote fast tracks or good pacers. And, so we really built our bedrock on like, we are not going to do that. And we'll beat you at the championship meets because we didn't do that so early on we weren't going to BU because truthfully, like we had very few guys that, or if any, that belonged at the national meet yet. Right? It was like, hey, we can go to Liberty and run 754 and just quietly do our thing. At some point, we want to be at the national meet. Like those small margins matter, right? And you got to be in those races. So we started going to BU and change what we're about, right? So when we've gone to BU, when those guys ran 730, when Ethan ran 348, Colton ran 7 27, it was win the heat, beat the guys in it, like win this heat, and the time will take care of itself. It was never, and I know Ethan will back me up on this. Is like we never talked about those records once ever. Like we never talked about the collegiate records in the 3K, the mile, any of the above, right? Even with Colton Sands qualifying for the NCAA's, like we never talked about chasing the NCAA mark. We talked about beating the guys in your heat, right? Like go be when he ran 7:39, it was like, hey, let's be the top collegiate, and he was the top collegiate there. And all of a sudden he's in the national meet. And so, yeah, I think you can do that anywhere. So we started going to BU and we started doing it there, but that hasn't changed what we're about. To your question of like, does it worry us going into the outdoor season? Two things. One, it doesn't, because I know what we haven't changed, right? And we haven't changed the way we train, how we build up. Well, I mean, the way we change is always evolving, but it has never become about chasing the now. And I pride myself on that, like really of we don't chase it within their college career exclusively if they have world-class aspirations, and we don't chase it within the microcosm of one of the 3 seasons. It's always a cumulative build. So I feel good about that. Also, though, I see, look at Grant, right? Look at Grant's historic indoor season. It lasted 13 days, 12 days, right? In the span of 12 days, Grant ran 1,500 and then 2 world records, right? And the point is, I do think oscillation and ebb and flow is, if you're at a really, really elite level, almost more important than even a long, steady build, right? And so these guys, and Ethan and Parker are a little bit different because of where Parker's hiccups have been. Coming to a peak is not the right word, but coming to a semi-peak in March is actually important so that they can cycle down and cycle back up, because they're going to go well into the summer now, instead of one long, continuous build.
Off of that last point there, is it hard to pace them, specifically when not every single athlete of yours coming out of indoor season will have had the Ethan Strand season where they're probably pretty stoked about it generally, although knowing Ethan, he's probably already thinking about things he could have fixed or done better. How do you like pace them where maybe they're like have a bigger fire than they've ever had before because indoor season didn't quite go to the extent that they wanted it to get, and they're like, Milt, give me a 100-mile week, give me 2 work, how do you pace them when they didn't have the season of their dreams? Because I think a lot of times it's only easy to take downtime or run less miles or do less workouts when you feel like you quote unquote deserve it. And I think that's a mindset a lot of athletes can fall into, which is unhealthy.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think, as somebody said as a distance runner, this is Alex Osberg actually said, like, when we're in a hole, we have a tendency to reach for the shovel instead of the ladder, like and I think you're right. Sometimes you come out disappointed, you want to double down when really what you need to do is take 1 step back to take 2 steps forward. How do you pace them? I mean, I think it's inherent in our system, right? People that are here trust what we do, and they trust that what we do is very different than what a lot of other people do. And they almost, I would say, will take pride in that. It's like, hey, we are going to do things differently. And so, yeah, in 2 weeks, you're going to see everybody at Raleigh Relays or Stanford Invitational running really fast times, and we're not. That's a huge source of pride for us, more than getting squirrely about it, right? So it's that. Also, like, you have people on very different timelines too, right? So like if your season ended at the ACC Indoor, and that that's 2 weeks earlier than say somebody who went to the NCAA's, and your goal is to be at the regional meet. We do need to get going a little bit sooner right now, and so I think that's the other part, is that individualization and fine tuning for where they're at, and they trust that part too.
Love to read you this quote. I don't think I've shared it before with you, but we're talking about success and excellence, particularly how it pertains to the indoor season and your thoughts and reflections. Love this quote. Came across it a few months ago. The quote is, ultimately, excellence is more than meeting other people's expectations. It's also about living up to your own standards. It's impossible to please everyone. You shouldn't ask, am I pleasing everyone? The better question is, am I letting down the right people? Many times it's better to disappoint others than to disappoint yourself.
Yeah, man, I think especially as you get to the elite level, the margins get really small. The wins, they get harder and harder and fewer and further between. And so your measuring stick has to be your own personal standard and the standards of the group and the team that you're part of, right? And that has to be the measure way more than the wins and the losses out there. I mean, look at the NCAA right now. I mean, it's rapidly evolving. This incredible insurgence of international talent is unlike anything we've ever seen in history before, right? And So you can't measure yourself solely by, hey, did I qualify or not qualify? Did I win or not win? Right? Because those marks are moving. It's like, are you executing your standards in how in how you approach things? And truthfully, man, that's where I think even after that DMR, I think Ethan, our guys, me, Ian, we were all torn up that night because we just didn't think we did it our way. Right? Had we lost and we done what we were been at our best, I think all of us would have gone to sleep fine that night. And I think the four guys, me, Ennie, and all of us felt a little bit like, man, we didn't do it our way. And if we did it our way and we got second, we would have felt a little bit better. I really do think we would have slept fine on that. And it's like, okay, so you got to be willing to learn, know when to stop beating yourself up and wake up the next day and go then too.
To that DMR, to that point, I think Jay Johnson said this quote to me way back in the day, but your athletes will emulate you for better or for worse. And I think it's a tricky balance, right? Where they're going to emulate you, but you also have to be honest and real with them. Otherwise, they won't trust you. So if you're happy-go-lucky after the DMR, your athletes probably aren't going to trust you because they're going to be like, what the heck? You shouldn't be happy after this. How do you find that balance of maybe being sad or frustrated or whatever the emotions you're feeling are, while also having that long-term perspective of like, we've got work to do tomorrow, and this is not the end. And, let's get over this as soon as we can so that we can focus on the next important thing.
Yeah, and I think it's being honest and being authentic, and I think our guys know that is one thing that sometimes maybe even backfires on me. I'm always honest, and I'm always, direct, and I'll tell you what I think. And I knew that night, yeah, they were going to respond to what, in many ways, to how, Ian and I were when they came back. And like I said earlier, like, man, you get to this point with guys like this and you have this level of trust, and I know them and they know me. And they didn't, all I needed to tell Ethan and Parker, say, man, I love you guys. Like, we're going to get better from this. Let's bounce back. Okay. That's when they first come back. Then they go out and they cool down and they come back. And now we're 35, 40 minutes removed. I've had 30 minutes to think about it. They've had 30 minutes to think about it on their cool down. Then I said to them, guys, this is on all of us, and most of all me. Is I think we got away from being who we are. Is none of us said it out loud, but then last night, did you lay in bed thinking about winning? Because I did, and I didn't say it, but I did, and I know you did too. And I'm like, and I think that's never been us, right? We've talked about, let's go execute our plan, let's go do what we do, and hey, the result's going to take care of itself. And I don't think I did a good job of saying, hey, okay, we want to win. Hey, last time we say that is Monday. And then let's go focus on execution, how we're going to do it. And Ethan, man, dude, nobody wants to win more than him. He's the most competitive dude, other than maybe Parker, you will find on the planet Earth, the two guys, those two, right? And so they want to win. I don't even think that's why he was disappointed. I don't think he was. He was disappointed because he knew, like, his desire to win and being a little anxious about that is what made him make a move that's uncharacteristic of him and not be himself, And I think that's what he was disappointed. He's like, man, I wasn't myself. I wasn't playing my tool set. And he's the ultimate team guy, right? He's the ultimate team guy of, like, he wanted to win that with those other guys too. And so, yeah, so it's a great moment of, like, that Friday night, like, all, because you look at Ethan, man, it's been nothing but up since 7:30, right? 7:30, 3:48. I mean, when we ran a DMR at BU, he split 3:49 coming from way down. Then he wins the ACC 5,000, closing. Like, nothing bad happened yet all season, right? And it was like, this is great. Bring us back to who we are. And then he was obviously great the next day because he went back to being himself.
To the time conversation, I think I asked Ethan this question, but I'll ask it to you. High school, college, professional, it goes across all three dimensions. And this is not a conversation about the shoes unless you wanted to turn it into that. But I think we're over that point. We're like 3 years over that point, hopefully. At what point do you think times will no longer be important or valuable and it will just be competition? And do you think that will be a net positive for the sport? Because at least in my opinion, it wouldn't shock me if we see a collegian run 340 in 10 years. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I could see it happening. And at that point, if you've been following the sport long enough, I think you're just going to be like, this is ridiculous. Now I just care about who's winning the race, which is kind of what running has always been about, is like, who's the fastest person on the day in this race? What's your general perspective on, like, do you think we'll get to a point where times no longer really matter because they've just gotten so astronomically fast? And do you think that's a net positive for the sport? I know.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll ever go away, and I think that's not all bad. It's not all bad, right? It's like there's this isn't really a black and white thing where like times are bad and racing is good, and only racing and not it's all the pursuit of excellence, right? The pursuit of the edges and like how fast can we, that part is exciting. I mean, look at the Breaking Two project in the marathon, right? Like even though that still is exciting, if you just said two collegiates are going to run under 350 early in the season, you just said, man, like not even one's going to do that, let alone two. So there is something still really excited about pushing boundaries and elevating human performance. Like I still find that fascinating. But I think to your question of like now the shoes have been in play for 5 years, right? Give or take. Like when is this just the times are the times? And you have, and I think the athletes might be ahead of the coaches on this because they're younger, right? Like I think as coaches, guys my age, give or take, it's hard to still not have historical context looming in the back of your mind of like, wait a minute, man, 358 was still good not long ago. And I'm not saying it's not good, but like you got to recalibrate fast. Like you got to recalibrate fast. And I actually think the cool part is like it's a complete return to like you're focusing on yourself because if this idea of I'm going to chase a time, those things are so fluid, right? Like, okay, example, those two guys run 7:30 in December, and in the it seems historic, and yes, it certainly was historic and still is. But by the time the Milrose games happened, it like already put that so into context. I was sitting with Ethan at the Carolina basketball game as the Milrose Games 3000 is going on because they were honoring him on the court at halftime. And so we're sitting together waiting to go down there. And he just opens his phone and he's like, man, Grant just ran 722. And he's like, yes, the bar just went up. It's like that's how quick you got to recalibrate too. And, if you look at, and Grant obviously is at another level than Ethan and Parker, but look at all the other guys in that race that ran 729, 730. It's like, well, so much for 730. Like you got to reframe your mindset really quickly. And I think that's true. Whether 7:30, 8 minutes is continue to just like, hey, am I getting better too? Competing is still the best part. Competing is still the skill set that we want to hone all the time here too.
I think I texted you this, but I truly think out of all the coaches in the NCAA, like you're in it for the right reasons. I think that's why your athletes are successful, but I think more importantly, it's why your athletes love you and respect you long after their time at UNC. And I know you've said this on the podcast before. Sometimes you don't know things until you listen to a podcast of mine with one of your former athletes and they say something about you years later that you didn't even know about. I'm curious to dive into that in the sense of like, I think as an NCAA coach, it's very easy to view your athletes not as people and kind of as machines, and you have them for 4 years and kind of robots. Like how many titles can we churn out of them? How fast can we get this human being to run, rather than like this full on picture where I know even with Ethan and Parker, like you still give them hard workouts, hard training. They ask for it, you give it to them to an extent. But I know you're still, this is why they're so scary to me, is because they're in your system. And I'm like, I know Milt's saving something for their professional career. That's not always the case. Your selfish side could come in and say, Ethan could maybe run 727 if we squeeze every last ounce of him, but there'll be no Ethan. And it's a very selfish endeavor. So why are you in it for the right reasons? Which I know is like a bland question, but I think a lot of coaches struggle with it. And how do you keep that side of you in check, which I'm sure pops up just like negative thoughts pop up of maybe that selfish side creeps in from time to time of, I know if I cut something here or there or give them this really, hard workout, we could win a title or more too, or they could run a second or two faster. How do you keep that side of yourself in check, which is very natural and human?
Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong, man. Like I'm really competitive, and our guys will tell you like, I mean, we joke around about this, but them and me, we have a few programs that like still get under our skin that we want to beat. And so I definitely have to think about this a lot, but, I don't know, man. It's inherent for me. Like I think because I was coached that way, that I just see that as so like that's our responsibility, right? Our responsibility when we have these elite world class performers is like to think big picture. And part of it is I love the idea that I play some very very small role in this huge surgence of American distance running happening right now, right? Is like by leaving some fruit on the tree with some of these elite guys in college, ones I've had or ones I have now, like, we're seeing this. This is so incredible what's happening on the world level and what the Americans did this summer, right? And I'd like to think we played some very, very, very small role in like this big elevation. So I love that part of it. And I just also know, like, if you really, really do what you believe is best for somebody's development, and that could be athletic development, but also just their personal development, right? Like, not everybody I have is going to be world class. A huge percentage of them are going to be done after 4 to 5 years in college, but you make it about like what is best for their development. Man, like that's actually how they run their best and they perform their best and compete their best, because they have this faith that you think that way, and that gives them confidence and trust. And so yeah, like I'm certainly competitive because it's fun and it raises the bar, but I just, to me, that's like inherent, and we've had some moments of late, like I really like Parker, Parker's last 6 months between the stress injury and the fall in his foot to then, running NCAAs, and was great. 730. Then he gets really, really sick in January. Then bringing him back to run in the NCAA Indoor meet. Like, I mean, it's been, because we've had these two things happen at the same time, right? Like, you've watched Ethan have this, kind of role he's been on that, really was very much coming. Like, there was no surprises to it. And Parker's been, bumping in the road a lot. And so I've been on this journey with both of them at the same time, right, over the last 6 months. And like, I know Parker, man, for example, like that's when they need you the most, right? And that's like when you got to be with them, you got to be in the trenches with them, you got to be thinking big picture for them, and just stick tight to them along the way. And he's about to come out the other side and be ready to freaking rock. But it, we didn't chase indoors at all. If you look at the ACC Indoors, I mean, we definitely had a chance to win that meet as a team. Chance. Don't get me wrong. Virginia Tech, really, really good. I say chance. I'm not saying we would have. We had a chance. But I wasn't going to double him back. He ran the DMR on Saturday night. I didn't even leave it the option, man. Like, I sent him out for a run Monday morning of the 3K final, even though he wanted to run. I was like, dude, we haven't raced. Like, I'm not going to let you get hurt right now again and give this back. And Ethan and Colton, I mean, those guys were pissed at me that day because I pulled them at the last minute. We didn't run them. And, it was Monday. NCAAs were next Friday, right? And look, the guy that did win the 3K beat DMR, so clearly I was wrong. It didn't cost you anything. But in my gut, I thought it could. And I thought, man, I got to do what's best for these guys, tournament outdoors. But, man, winning an ACC title would have been huge for us. Huge. But I also wasn't going to sell the farm on their season, but more importantly, their year to do. So I'll make that decision every time.
Alternate reality, you run Chris Miltenberg University. Let's go men's and women's. All the athletes you've ever had underneath you in your entire career. Build your ultimate DMR team, both genders.
Oh, man, I don't know. I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I mean, on the women, it's so interesting because, again, the evolution of what these times mean, right? And so you think about like when Emily Infeld was in college, she ran 4:08 in the 1500. She ran in the 1530s, and like, man, a lot of people do that now, but she's so freaking competitive. Whatever it takes right now to be the NCAA champ, she would be running it if she was in college. At least the same, right? I'll tell you this, man, Makayla Paige is really freaking good too. Like, she's really freaking good. She might be the best person on all 4 legs of that DMR. Of any of the distances, if we're going to put together the best person, because she's super competitive and has incredible natural speed. And so I don't know, man. I'd have to really think about that, but probably some combination of Elise, Emily Infeld, Makayla. But Claudia Saunders also ran 2 flat and was NCAA runner-up twice and was really, really good in cross country and could split 53. So some combination of them. Men, Parker, Ethan, Grant, Sean. I mean, again, some combination. They can't all be on it though, so I don't know to answer. That's a tough one. Guys that are just super, super competitive and feisty. I mean, those 4 guys, are as competitive and driven. I mean, Parker, 1,200 meters. He's like, dude, I don't care if it's 12K or 1,200. Shoot the gun. like, let's go. And it's like, Sean led us off on the 1200 the year he won the NCAA 5K outdoors. And so, yeah, probably some combination of those four guys and who runs on the eight. Yeah, we've had some good, really good 800 legs. We have yet to have that, like, okay, we got a 145 in the middle, and we had Luke Lefebvre, who ran 147 on the team that won. He was probably the best of them. And so, but yeah, probably some combination of those four guys.
Speaking specifically on Makayla, I know you've brought her up a few times in this conversation, and I'm thrilled to get her on the podcast soon and break it down and her career and all of that. But from your perspective, we talk about the guys a lot in our conversations, but what does that win mean for her, for the program, for the women's program, and how much did that win mean to you and mean to the program to win one? I mean, it's so big, and NCAA titles have ripple effects, honestly, 20 years down the road, because a lot of athletes 20 years down the road say, oh, if this person did it, I can do it too. And it puts more meaning to the logo you wear on your chest. So what's your thought on that, and how elated were you for her and for the program?
Oh man, it was awesome. It was awesome. And I had a feeling she could win. Like we'd been saying that in our coaching staff, particularly even like my jumps and sprints coach. Are like, man, they're like, Milt, I'm telling you, man, she's as good as any of those people we've had. And I'm like, guys, do not say that. Like, nobody says this outside that room. Like, outside this room. Like, let's just do what we've been doing, steadily make progress. And but like, we all had this feeling like, okay, we're looking at these other 7 people, man. I think she can, and but to zoom back to the initial part of your question, like what it means for our program, it's monumental. Because if you look at in the 6 years we've been here, and I really, really got back to fully coaching our women again 2 years ago. Um, in the beginning, our women were actually ahead of our men. Our women were 5th at the NCAA Championships. In 2 years ago, last year we didn't make it. This year we were 11th. I the last 3 years have been at the NCAA Indoor meet and did not watch the women's meet because I had nobody in it. The last prior to last year, I've flown home from Eugene or Austin on Saturday morning because we had no women in the finals. We had no women in the meet, distance runners. So this is where our men got ahead of our women because we had the big accelerant with Parker and Ethan. And, we had on the men what we didn't have on the women is these really impactful graduate transfers that come in at an older age and can contribute right away. And we didn't have that on the women at all. It's been all homegrown. On the men, we had both. So anyway, I'm bouncing around. Long answer to your question. With our men, because of the grad transfers that came in, what Parker and Ethan have done, it opened the barriers in everybody's mind very early on of like, yes, we can do that. Like, we freaking belong. We can do that. Okay. Our women, that's been the barrier we're breaking. Is like, yeah. And there's this pretty good team over in Raleigh that kicked our ass for several years. Still does, right? But like, there were no easy, like, moral victories to be happened in our backyard here. Like, we're just getting beat on by them. And it was like, guys, we are doing it, and we just don't have anything to show for it yet. Like, we're coming. We believe we can do it. And, one of the things we say is, like, let's get a DMR in the meet. Like, we're going to get a DMR in the national meet, and then we're going to rotate people off of it because we're going to have individual qualifiers on that team. And, like, that's a benchmark that we're getting somewhere. So we can have a DMR in the meet and individual qualifiers off of it, and we've got a deep enough team that we can rotate people in. And yeah, no, maybe nobody else is going to notice that, but, like, we're going to notice that. Well, we did. We ran 10:44. Then we took Makayla off of it, changed our lineup. We ended up 9th by like 0.2 of a second out of being 7th and scoring in the DM. But that was a huge flag planted. And then Makayla winning, I mean, that's a huge, huge flag planted for our whole women's team of like, yeah, we can freaking do this. Like, we can do this. We belong. And because it was only 3 hours away, we had like a lot of our team was there. And like, man, that place went nuts when she won. Like, the sound was unbelievable, really cool. And so, yeah, we're going to keep building on that. And again, I think she's really just getting started too.
Give me the benefit of the doubt while asking this question, because I have the best intentions while asking it, and it's not to discredit your success at these programs or coaches who are currently at these programs or take them over. But I think with Georgetown, your time there, with how Henner set it up, and then with Stanford just always being so freaking dominant, success comes a lot easier, and it's less of building, although I'm sure there is still building, but a lot of maintaining and maybe small steps on top of that. With your situation at North Carolina, you really came into a program that was not only not competitive at the national stage, but not even at the conference stage. And then really what you've done over these past however many years that you've been at the program. I mean, let's just take this indoor meet, for example. You have an individual women's winner, individual men's winner. Men's team places second in the DMR on a quote unquote like bad off day. I mean, the success of the program is truly astounding. And if you were a Stanford investment banker or hedge fund analyst, you would probably buy UNC stock out of any program across the country. What does this win, or what does this, like, these wins mean to you? What does the evolution of the program mean to you? And when you look back on your career one day, what does this chapter mean to you? Because this truly cements you as one of the greats, in my opinion, where it's like you have transformed a program from nothing into something. And again, not discrediting any other program, but it's a lot easier to do. When crazy statement, and people can hate on, I could probably have decent success at a Stanford just with the talent they get with the name. It's not, I'll give them 10 by K at threshold. We'll play it safe. They'll probably do well. So what does this mean to you, basically, before I keep rambling and get myself in trouble?
No, I appreciate that context. And, I think among coaches, that's something we all think and talk a lot about often is like, truthfully, man, like college athletics is a pretty unlevel playing field. Like, particularly in our sport, like there are just places that people go, right? There are places that recruits go regardless of who's the coach. And as you said, man, Stanford will always, always be one of those places. And that was never lost on me when I was there of like, yeah, these people are coming whether I'm here or not. And, a couple things, man. You have to remember, like, the reason we came to Carolina is there was some success in the past, don't forget, especially on the women's side in the sprints and what Shalane did, and her era was incredible. But all the pieces were here, like that. The pieces in terms of like athletic brand, infrastructure, resources, ability to recruit elite people were here. So I don't want to say like we built something completely out of nothing. The elements were there. That's why I took the job, right? I wouldn't have taken it if I didn't think we had everything we needed to do it. But back to the beginning of your point, it's like, I think, like I said, at Stanford, that was never lost on me. And I was self-conscious of that in probably a way that held me back, even of self-conscious of like, yeah, among my peers, everybody just thinks the Stanford coach gets all the talent and all you can do is screw it up. Now, I will say, I welcome take that challenge on and go to Stanford and be the coach because it's really freaking hard, right? And I think they're doing a great job now too because it's really freaking hard. And so I welcome anybody who thinks that it's easy to take on that challenge. And that's why I'm proud of what we did there, regardless of how anybody from the outside would judge it. I am really proud of what we did there because of what we were working with every day and how we did it. And but to your point, I think there was some part of me that I never said this out loud to anybody, but like I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it without Stanford. Like there was some part of me that wanted to prove to myself that I could do it without the Stanford brand name behind me. And don't get me wrong, man, this is one of the most powerful brands in the world right here. But we had to build it up. And so, yeah, that part's super fun. But honestly, like, I never think of it that way anymore. Like in terms of like, you're like, man, you guys are doing something, even to your earlier question of like complacency versus pausing to enjoy it. Like I probably should pause and recognize enough of like, wait a minute, we are actually this good? Like, holy shit, excuse my language. Like we are this good? Because I don't ever really think that way. I don't ever really think that way. I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, how do we take the people we've got and help them get better and help them max out? And so, yeah, no. But when I stop and pause, man, like I'm really, really proud of our people, and man, I've had an incredible like coaching staff with me the whole time, and like this isn't over, like we're just getting started right now. We're gonna like, truthfully, I'm really excited about the next chapter of like, when I left Stanford, one of my regrets was we were about to write the post Grant Fisher chapter, and we had all the pieces lined up to write this incredible next post Grant Fisher chapter, and we didn't stay to do it. And then I'm really, really, really excited on some level of like the post Parker Ethan chapter too. And like, we're going to show we can do it again. We're going to show we can do it again and climb again. And so, yeah. So anyway, long answer to your question again, man. It is pretty cool when I zoom out and think about where we were. Like I have this text thread. What it's called the Founding Fathers. And that's a joke, but it is like the guys that really were like the instrumental guys. So it's Alex Osborne, Thomas Ratcliffe, Brandon Tubby, Jesse Hunt, Jack Aho, Marshall Williamson, John Tatter. These guys were like bedrock guys that like bought into what we wanted to build here. Whether, John, Jesse, Brandon, and Marshall were all on the team. Jack, Alex and Thomas came as grad transfers, and like they were the guys who like started. I'm like, man, this is all happening because of what you guys did here, and like, they take great pride. We can made this into something, and so yeah, it's we want to keep climbing, and again, for us, last part I'll add is like we never just wanted to be a good East Coast team. We never just wanted to be a good like I don't want to say this. This may sound condescending, but like, dude, we didn't want to just beat the ACC teams, And the ACC is the best conference in America now, right? But like, dude, we wanted to beat NAU, and we haven't yet, in cross country. Like we haven't in our mind. Like so, like we're not really seeing. We don't really see it that way. We're like, wait, we said we are gonna try to beat NAU, we haven't yet, right? Like so, in our mind, we still got work to do.
I know you're a family man, big family man. I know your wife has played a pivotal role in your own life and your own coaching, and you've gone into that extensively in the past before. So I don't need to do that because you know it. What do these wins mean to her? Because even we talk about that move from Stanford to UNC, like that affects her life, right? That affects your kids. And I'm sure it's a lot more redemptive and justifying and exciting when you're winning titles and you're making big waves within the program rather than if it just continued to be a mediocre program. So what's her perspective on all of this? How does she feel? And what are those moments like? I'm not sure if she was at the meet or not, but whether she's at the meet or texting or calling, like, what's her whole view of this, Ben, and the recent success?
Yeah, I mean, as I've said in the past when we've talked, like we've done this whole thing together, right? Like from the very, very beginning, to when we didn't have kids, to having kids, to moving them across the country, moving them back across the country here again as they got older, and so we've been on this whole journey together. And I mean, I think for Colleen, for my wife, like I think for us, the part that like this is our extended family, right? Our team. And I think her seeing how much like I put into, these athletes, but also like how much they are connected to us and our family, like that's the part that's the most meaningful to her, even probably more than the wins. And like to your question, like, yeah, no, this weekend at Virginia Beach, like that, my whole family was there because it's only a couple hours away from here. And like, my kids, my oldest daughter is about to go to high school. My son's in sixth grade. My younger two daughters are 10 and 8. And like they were there the whole time in the hotel, messing around. Like on Saturday night, after we came back from the 3K, Ethan and my son and all the women on our team went and jumped in the freaking ocean, and my daughter. And like, so it's just like those moments of just seeing how awesome experience this is for our kids. How I know my athletes are great people in many ways by how they treat my kids. Like I watch that interaction. And so the whole thing for us is just like, it's an awesome journey. It's an awesome thing for our kids to grow up around. And, particularly like I have three daughters and, three girls and one boy. And like, for my daughters, I mean, they're just around these badass female athletes all the time. Like that's all they know and see. And I mean, come on, what is cooler than that? Like what is better than that? And so, yeah, I think, that part for her, I think we just love that it's all part of our family too.
You mentioned the post Parker Ethan era at UNC. I know your response to this, what it's going to be, but do you think we'll ever see another Parker Ethan? I do think, again, times make things a little tricky and complicated and how fast things have gone, but they're probably the best duo we've ever seen in the NCAA. What does that mean to you? Just the impact they've had on the program. Do you think we'll see another Parker and Ethan? And how do you think you're going to develop that next Parker and Ethan now that you probably have the blueprint, and it's probably never going to share it. And you might not even know the extent to which it is, but that's why you're such a good coach. You know things internally, and that's what influences these decisions that you make on a daily basis. So thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I know. I don't think you ever can say you're going to replicate something. It's like, it's different every time, right? Like, so yeah, are we going to replicate Parker and Ethan? No, and I don't think we're going to try to, right? It's like we're going to take the guys we've got and develop them. Now, I do have some guys in the pipeline, guys here, and also guys that are coming next year, and one the year after, even that like I think can be that good. Like I really do. I can be that good. Can and will are different, but can be, and I think we're going to get them there. But no, honestly, like this is where I think I do a good job. Is like I don't probably even appreciate fully enough like what this historic alignment of them is right now, and just really how fast they've run. And but I think that's good when you're in it. When you're in it, just do it. Like I just coach them. You know what I mean? Like I don't go to practice and being like, oh my God, I got the collegiate record holder. I can't screw this up now. What are we going to do? Like, what was the workout? What do we think he needs today? You know, the same way we did when he was a 401 miler as a sophomore. It's like, what's the workout he needs today? What does he need? What do we need to talk to him about today? Like, nothing changed Monday at practice after those races. You know, like, not for him, not for us, not for the other guys. And we still give him a hard time and bust his chops at practice. Like, I think that's what we do well, is because, like, for me, like, I've been around this before, you know, and so it isn't this. And I think that helps these guys stay grounded and stay on the big picture. But I do think to your question, like, as they graduate and I zoom out, like, some days, like, holy shit, like, these guys, like, this has been a fun run, you know? And, you know, honestly, man, like, to your earlier question too, like, when I left Stanford, part of the calculus on that was like, okay, I know at Stanford, you're going to get Grant Fisher, you're going to get Elise Cranny, you're going to get Ella Donnie, you're going to get Sean McGorty. And I remember literally when I was making the decision to do it and saying, like, my wife and I talking about it in the kitchen and being like, okay, we want to do this. I'm super excited about this. This has got all the elements of what we're looking for professionally, personally. The only thing is I might not see that again, you know, or I might not see that for a long time. Like, it's going to take me a long time to get to where I can get a recruit at that level again. We're going to have to get this thing off the ground. I'm going to have to get 14-10 guys to score at cross country nationals. And then here we are 4 years later. I'm like, oh shit, these guys might be better than they were. You know, like, it happened. And so yeah, that part's just exciting and fun. And again, just like think about what they need next.
Wrapping up this conversation, you probably don't want to be asked this question, but I'll ask it to you anyways. You have Ethan, Strand, Parker, Wolfe talent. I know this question's been asked to you before. I know I've asked it to you before. Has your thought perspective changed at all on doing post-collegiate stuff? And I laugh because I know it's just so not you, and you probably will say no, but it's probably a little more tempting when you get the talent and you've developed it as well as you have. So that's part one of my question. Part two, if that's not the case, is it ever hard to pass off development and talent when you know it could be continue to flourish underneath your system?
Yeah, I mean, funny you should bring that up, because that is obviously a very hot conversation topic around our house here right now with our guys, with Parker and Ethan. The time horizon in which these conversations about turning pro, or when they graduate this spring, and Ethan does have some eligibility still, but you know, if you go back to when Grant was coming out, Sean, Elise, like, none of these things happened until after the NCAA outdoor meet. Whereas now, just like high school recruiting, there is this very, very, very rapid acceleration of how much earlier. So these conversations are happening by the day with us right now, for what's going to be like a deal I made with myself all the way back when I had Emily Infeld was, I said, you know, I will never, ever, ever keep somebody with me unless I'm 1000% deep in my gut believe it is the very, very best thing for their long-term development to be world-class, right? I would never keep them with me because I love working with them or for my own resume, you know? It was a deal I made myself long ago. It's going to do what I think is best for them and advise them the best way. And for Emily at the time, that was obviously going to Bowerman then. And look, when we were at Stanford, and Sean, Grant, Elise, Vanessa, keep going down the list. I mean, it was pretty obvious. Like, no, that situation could never have been as good as going to Bowerman at that time. You know, these guys were talking about a lot of options, right? And yeah, I really I would love to work on the pro side of the game. I'll never want to leave the college side right now, but I am super intrigued by finding the world-class leading edge of performance. And truthfully, I'm competitive, man. I believe I can do it. You know, like I am competitive. I have I have that in me a little bit. You got to have that self-belief of like, I'm seeing some of these coaches on the world stage and I'm like, I can do that. Like, I know I can. And so I shouldn't say that publicly, but like, I really do. I believe that deep in my heart. I'm watching this stuff. I'm standing in Eugene last year and I'm like, I can do this. I'm like, I know I can. I know I have nothing but respect for some guys that just coach pros, but I'm like, my college guys are beating you. You know, like, I'm like, I think we can do this. And so a really vague answer to your question is like, I'm very open to it, but I also just know like I will never do it for my own benefit, only what I believe is best for any of my people. And if I think it's best for me to go somewhere else, I'm going to tell them too. And so we'll see. Yeah, we'll see where things go. And, that's part of it is like I really also believe Chapel Hill can be an epicenter of distance running in the United States, right? Okay, dude, I'm from New York. I'm an East Coast guy. And I went to the West Coast. And man, this whole sport, everybody thinks you got to be on the West Coast or in the mountains. And I don't think you do. Right. And that's part of the flag we're planting here is like, yeah, man, like, don't get me wrong. Altitude is a huge benefit and you got to utilize it within the calendar. But like, why not us too? Like, why not us? And we got a whole team of people that think that way here. And so, we'll see where things go over time and what will end up. But it's something I love that being on the leading edge, man. And like, let's go find out where the world-class growth lies too.
And if you didn't have that mindset, you'd never even come close. If I've learned one thing from this podcast, it's that people that accomplish delusional things are the ones who are delusional enough to believe that it can't happen. I've never once in the over 500 episodes talked with someone who simply stumbled upon success. They some core part of them believed they could do it, and that's why they went out and achieved it. We're up on time, so two quick questions for you before I let you go. First one, we'll take a running route. First one, second one, non-running, both relevant to you. I'm sure you've heard about it on the podcast. Parker, Ethan, Betts. What's the coach's take on this? And will you ever step in and get in on one of these?
I love it. I mean, it's reflective of their personalities, right? Is these guys are having fun. That whole bet of Parker here, December, and I don't even know if I ever actually saw him do it either in the end. But that is why these guys are so good. Is like they are like two kids playing soccer, right? Or shooting hoops, right? Like literally, like that's what they're like, man. It's just coming at each other. They talk trash and it's fun. Like they're laughing, they're having fun, and like so the bets are just like that's all part of it, man. It's like let's go compete. But when you're actually with them, the number one thing they'll tell you is like, yeah, that's not. We don't even think about that until after we've beaten everybody else, right? And then let's go see if we can push each other more. So no, the coaches have not gone in on any of that part yet.
Second question for you. Final question for you. March Madness starts today. I think UNC's the 11th seed. With your basketball expertise, how will they make a run? How will they do? Are you allowed to speak on this? How do you feel about the Tar Heels' chances this year?
Well, they were a play-in game last night or 2 nights ago, and they dominated their play-in game as an 11th seed. And so I'm buying stock right now. I'm in. I'm really good friends with like our basketball coach is my neighbor. Our house is back up to each other, and our director of ops basketball is my neighbor on the other side. And so I'm really tight with those guys, and I am so rooting for them because it has been a hard season for them, and they just like us, like they're super competitive. They've got young guys, and you have to appreciate. Like I have such appreciation for them now that I know them. Is like. I mean, the expectations on Carolina basketball are hard. That's a hard life every day. And they're doing it. So, I'm buying stock. I think they're going to go on a run. Now, they play Ole Miss on Friday. We'll see what we get. But I did my bracket at home last night with my kids. We were all doing ours with our family, and I was betting on them. So
I'm going to cut myself off here because this would make this 15 minutes longer, and I had to go. But if you haven't, I love taking examples from other sports, putting it onto our own sport. And I'm so biased living in Columbus and kind of growing up an Ohio State fan. But Ryan Day and Ohio State, oh my gosh, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, go into their season this past year, I think you would eat it up because the lessons they learned from losing to Michigan, coming in with a $20 million roster, losing to Michigan, the expectations, people saying fire Ryan Day. I mean, I'm in Columbus culture, so it's like you go to the grocery store and it's like hate Ryan Day all over everyone's shirt, basically. And then how they bounced back. And he said this in the post-game interviews, like it's all about us. And you look into the players only meeting, what was said there. If you want to go down a rabbit hole right up your alley, I'll send you stuff after this. But Ohio State this year, their football team, it'll get you fired up. It'll get you fired up.
So. I always say one of the most undervalued forms of toughness is being good when you are supposed to be good. And if you've never been in that boat, you don't know how hard that actually is. Being an underdog is easy, man. It's easy. Being good when you are supposed to be good, Ohio State football, North Carolina basketball, that's hard. Like I have such respect and appreciation for people that can navigate that and stay true to themselves and stay insular. And that's, again, what we're trying to become here too.
Totally. Milt, you're excellent. I know you got to run, go train people to win titles and break records. So you go do that. I'll go hop on another podcast and appreciate the conversation as always. This was honestly one of my favorites. I think it was all across the spectrum, but excellent at every which door we open. So keep up the great work. And you got a fan in me. So keep crushing it.
Well, I love what you're doing. Keep kicking ass. You're doing great. Let's keep in touch.